Howdy everyone, Sarcy here, and with 2019 now being over, it's time to wrap up the year in gaming. Now, in my opinion, 2019 was all around more of a shitty year than anything, but we'll be talking about the good as well as the bad in an attempt to balance this out so it isn't just all negative, as there is a bit of stuff we can celebrate from 2019. As with last year, let's get the bad out of the way first, going in no particular order. So I'm going to start with something, or rather someone, that deserves the first mention since a certain corporation wouldn't even acknowledge him in their 2019 rewind. That person being Etika. A good YouTuber, a good gamer, and most importantly, a good man. Etika took his own life back in June. After leaving a goodbye video that YouTube shamelessly tried to repeatedly cover up by deleting re-uploads over and over, the search was on to find him, but unfortunately it was too late as the police found his body in the river. Honestly, the worst news of the year, because while there have been shit games this year and shit corporations, there's always next year to hope for better ones, but we won't be having another Etika. So, with the worst out of the way, let's get on to the typical stuff that the industry did. Bethesda continued to fuck up Fallout 76 at every patch. I'm not even going to go into details because if I did, we'd be here all day just talking about Fallout 76. But one thing that I will go into details about is Fallout 76's yearly subscription. They had a subscription that was basically pay to win for $100 a year, and they even screwed that up by not having the stuff included in that work. Call of Duty introduced the worst microtransaction ever, selling back KD score for $20. Death Stranding, a heavily hyped game, released and caused conflict between reviews. Kojima got butthurt over it, but honestly I haven't played it yet, but people I know have said that it's just a $60 walking simulator. Hong Kong protests occurred. Blizzard banned Blitzchung, received extreme backlash, made a fake apology at BlizzCon that fooled nobody, and the whole China situation is ongoing. 2K sent goons to Borderlands 3 YouTuber Sup Matto's house and then proceeded to get his channel shut down. And the best part of the story, they got away with it because of course they did. 2K made actual gambling in NBA 2K20 and got an E rating because the ESRB believes that children should gamble. Speaking of actual gambling, Rockstar made it as real as it gets in GTA Online with actual casinos in which you can basically gamble your money away. And since you can buy in-game money with real money, there's just no topping this when it comes to in-game gambling. And since 2K is the parent company of Rockstar Games, I can blame them for this shit, and that means they've made this shit list 3 times in a row. Pokemon Sword and Shield released to an absolute shitstorm when a majority of the older Pokemon were missing from the game. Apparently, there were also reused 3DS assets, but I'm not sure about that. I actually just got the game a few days ago after Christmas, and I've been enjoying it so far, but either way, it did cause a lot of controversy. Earlier this year, Sony officially discontinued production of the PlayStation Vita. It was dead years ago when the Western market pulled out and stopped blessing us with games like Killzone, Need for Speed, Borderlands 2, games that really showed off the power of the Vita, but despite this, I always loved my Vita, even more than the 3DS, which is why I was sad to see it go. Thankfully, after having mine been broken by my PS4 almost a year ago, I was able to get a replacement during Black Friday, and it's still being supported by indie devs such as the lovely Retallica Games, and yes, that's a sort of plug, so if any of you at Retallica Games end up seeing this, thank you for continuing to support a great handheld system. Atari and their multiple different versions of the Atari box, or whatever they're calling it now, have pretty much been teasing it and delaying it repeatedly, and it's apparently set to release around next-gen systems, so it's going to be a complete flop, because if you could get a next-gen system for cheaper than you could get what's basically an underpowered PC, why wouldn't you? Speaking of terrible flops, Google Stadia launched, and to nobody's surprise, it was an absolute disaster. Lots of promised stuff missing, bare-bone game selection at full price, overheating Stadias, the list goes on. I'd say I feel bad for anyone that bought it, but to the 10 people that did, they knew it was going to be trash and still bought it anyways. I'm going to end this part of the video with something that isn't just gaming, but rather the platform as a whole. We've all heard it by now, but the whole YouTube and COPPA situation, and YouTube stating that they can terminate any accounts that aren't making them money. Honestly, it's the only time I've ever feared anything YouTube has done, as while YouTube's been pissing off people for years, they've scared the piss out of many people this time. All I know is that starting this month, we're in for what could be the end of many of our accounts. But like I said, it's not all dark and gloomy in the world of gaming, so let's brighten things up with some of the highlights of 2019. Xbox Scarlet got its official reveal as the Xbox Series X, and possibly just plain Xbox. Some people liked it, some people didn't. I hated it at first launch as it had a crap name and looked like a tall speaker, but the design has kind of grown on me, and I'll just start calling it the Xbox SX. So with less than a year till the next generation, while I do have some worries such as game sizes and their bandwidth usage, I'm pretty optimistic about the next generation of consoles. Going back to the current generation, PlayStation 4 became the second best selling console of all time. Even bigger, the PlayStation brand itself became the best-selling console brand of all time, surpassing even Nintendo with just the 4 PlayStations released, according to Guinness Records. After Resident Evil 2 Remake was a major success, Resident Evil 3 Remake was announced. It's honestly the only original I never actually got around to playing, so I'm hyped to see how it turns out when it comes out in just a few months. EA released a good game for once. Even better, a good Star Wars game. And the best of all, no microtransactions. Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order released and surprised many people, becoming the Dark Souls of Star Wars. Getting back to Nintendo, Nintendo Switch Online members finally got Super Nintendo games as part of the subscription. It didn't interest me, honestly, with how late they were introduced, and considering that hackers were already able to play them and any ones they wanted on their Switches, but at least they're here now. Speaking of Nintendo, they released the Switch Lite, and it's been a big hit. I'm still staying away from it myself, as I think non-detachable Joy-Cons are cursed, but to those that have been using it with no issues, I'm glad. Another notable accomplishment, Switch actually outsold PS4 in Japan. Even for just one country, that's impressive, and it truly shows how Nintendo has their head in the game. Speaking of outselling, it apparently also outsold the Xbox One worldwide, but given that it's been a few years apparently since Microsoft released sale numbers for the console, I'm taking it with a grain of salt, but either way, it's just more proof that Nintendo has well outdone their previous failure, the Wii U. And also in Nintendo-related news, Reggie Fils-Aime retired as the Nintendo of America president, and while I still miss him as he was the best president, he's been living his life well, so I wish him the best. This one's a personal one. Resident Evil 5 and 6 came to Switch a few months ago. Not a big deal to many, but for a long time I had hoped to see RE5 come to Switch and was thrilled when they announced it finally coming. It doesn't run as good as it should for a current-gen port of a last-gen game, but hey, a real portable Resident Evil 5. Nothing against the Mercenaries 3D on 3DS, but that was such a tease of what could have been so much more. So that's pretty much it for 2019. I know there was a lot more that happened, but those were just some of my personal picks. So wrapping it up for the 3 console platforms, Nintendo had a fantastic year with the Switch and a very strong first-party lineup with a fair amount of third-party support. The console continues to fly off shelves, and with the Switch Lite being out, sales have only further increased. PlayStation had a record-breaking year with multiple exclusives released throughout the year. This generation is coming to a close, but the PS4 has still managed to reach new levels and provided plenty of first-party content. Xbox, meanwhile, did pretty poorly with basically no notable exclusives this year, and on base systems, newer games like Modern Warfare 2019 and Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order have really showed that it's finally time for next gen to arrive, as Microsoft needs it in order to keep games performing and looking good on base systems. On the bright side, at least, they've killed it with the game selection in their Xbox Game Pass service, as well as having various rewards thrown in for Ultimate members like Discord Nitro, EA Access, and Spotify Premium. Anyway, that's pretty much 2019. I know there's been a lot of good stuff that's come out, a lot of good that's happened, but as always with the gaming industry, there's been a lot of shady stuff that's happened in 2019, and it seems every year things only get worse and worse, so I'm hoping for a better year in 2020. So, this is WarsRC on the Game Clips channel, and I'm out.